Hey all, and welcome to a very special retro review. Today I have something that my inner child could have only dreamed of. I have an Optimus Prime watch. Now this is something from Generation 2, and looking at it, I could not find a whole lot of information on it. I actually didn't know it existed. This is something I had always wanted as a kid, and at that time, the closest thing we had were these really neat Takara robot watches. And I believe the GoBots had their own version as well. But while I don't have the full wristband and all the parts of this, this was still a really neat thing for the time, though I wanted an Optimus Prime. Now what we have here is an interesting oddity. Like I said, there was not a whole lot of information about it. I actually thought it could have been a bootleg, or some sort of strange Asia-only exclusive, or something along those lines. Who knows how it was distributed. But through looking through various forums, and speaking to one of my friends from Korea, I was able to decipher a few things about this. Now my understanding is that this is actually an authentic product. What it is during this time period, the licenses were handled a little bit different. And so they were handed off to some companies, probably for a price. I don't know the actual details. And through this process, you had sort of these interesting products come about that weren't as regulated by Takara or Hasbro. They may have had a say in something, but there's not enough about anything for us to really know for sure. But as you see, this is a Optimus Prime watch that does transform. The only thing that would have made this the ultimate toy for me as a kid is if it also turned into a truck. However, turning into a watch is still pretty neat. And you might notice, even from the pictures, that the color is a little bit strange. We have a red and blue Optimus Prime down here with a gold chest and gun, and you can see through the package that it is gold. So there were a couple things about this box that my friend from Korea was kind enough to translate for me. The main headline being, of course, Optimus Watch. And then the other piece of information he got for me is made in Korea, which is something that we're assuming considering this is all Korean characters. He mentions it's made by the La La Toy Company, and the manufacture date is December 1996. So even though we don't have a full, translation of the entire box, we do have some key pieces of information where we can sort of maybe do more research on this product, or find a little bit more about the history, or even just have more information to log down. So let's look at this package a little bit. We have Optimus Prime, 3D licensed by Toontown, all rights reserved. So I'm assuming that is one of the organizations that may have had the rights distributor transferred if this was indeed sanctioned by Hasbro, which my understanding it was. We have this really neat illustration of Optimus, not quite true to the G1, but it looks like it was inspired by, with a gold gun and a gold chest, which is pretty unique as far as design goes. And you can see within this window here that he has a gold chest and these white panels on there. And of course he is a little bit different than the box art. So we'll go over to the side. You can see watch mode. You can see, flip up the face to see the time, and then transformation. Now it appears this is not transforming into a truck. That would have been my ultimate dream as a kid, but I still think this is pretty cool as is. On the back, of course, we see the watch mode, talks about setting it. Then we have the illustration again, and then on the other side, we have more of the same. So it's a neat package. There's a little bit of wear, as you can see, some creases, a little bit cut, but nothing terrible. I mean, if I display this, most likely it's going to be in the box. I think the box itself is pretty neat as well. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get this guy open. So I just want to make sure I get this under the lip. And one thing, just a little tip for opening toys, if you use a letter opener, you can actually push these tabs down, and it'll keep them from catching here, and it just avoids tearing or damaging the boxes. But luckily this one has probably been opened before, or has enough wear to where it's accessible. So inside the box, we have some instructions, or a pamphlet of some sort, and then we have this flocked plastic tray. So it's just yellow plastic with yellow flocking on it. A white gun as compared to the red gun in the illustration. And it looks like we have the shape of the gun here that's not been painted, which is kind of interesting. I think it would have been a better choice of just painting this whole area black or one color. That way, say you lost the gun or you didn't have the gun in that mode at that time, it wouldn't stand out so much. But then we have the watch. This looks brand new as far as the quality of the plastic and stuff like that. Let's go ahead and lay this down for a moment and check out this book. So we have the same illustration here in black and white, spot color blue, printing in the background. All the text, Generation 2, and then the way it unfolds. So it just folds out like a regular brochure. And we have a picture of Optimus Prime, transformation sequence, semi-truck. And I'm assuming that this is maybe an advertisement for the toys. Though it would be pretty interesting if these were also watches. But we have G2 Megatron. We have a Dinobot. I always forget that one. We have Starscream, most likely, at least some Seeker. And then the only one that really stands out to me that I'm not aware of is this guy. I might have to look into this. He does not look familiar to me at all. I wonder if he was something that was specifically for the G2 line or reappropriated from something else. So then here we have Jazz. We have another mode, or another robot that I'm not familiar with. Then, of course, Grimlock. And another robot that looks sort of unfamiliar. It actually looks like something in between a race car and a Sharkticon. I'm not sure what that's supposed to be, but this is pretty neat. Pack-in to go along with it. It's not instructions. It is just sort of a brochure for G2 Transformers, I'm assuming. So yeah, just more of the text here. There's actually a phone number here. I wonder if it's still active. Possibly an address, since we have this number here. I might Google this company and just see what's still around. Alright, now for the main unveiling. So let's go ahead and get Optimus out here. And this plastic, there's no cracking on it. I'm really amazed at how well this has held up over the years. 3D licensed by Two Town, Maine and Korea, Lala Toys. On the back of the base here, embossed. And then our gun. Let me see if I can get that out without damaging the tape. And so we have our G1 blaster, which I'm not as keen on the white. I would have liked it either in black or, I don't know about the red, but it's interesting. So we have the blaster here. Has the same basic shape of Prime's G1 blaster. And then on the side here we have two peg holes, so it could be fastened here. And I'm curious at how well this would hold up in actual use without falling off. Those pegs are pretty long though, considering. And there it is with the gun on there. It is pretty secure. I'm not really worried about that falling off. It is a pretty tall watch, almost like a communicator. And you can see here, I didn't fasten it all the way because I don't want to put a crease in it. But it could actually fit my wrist and still has two notches to go bigger. So that's pretty cool that it has enough of a wristband for an adult in 1996. So they are very forward-thinking, assuming that a fan, or at least someone with somewhat decent-sized wrists, would be interested in an Optimus Prime watch. But let's check that out. So let's flip this forward. And so that lowers this panel and allows the gun to be moved out of the way. And then we grab it by the bumper. And then we would be able to reveal the time. Now the clearance here, his head hits a little bit. So you'd have to be gentle. And of course this is all plastic. So I wouldn't want to really force anything anyway. And you could see where the time would be. I assumed that the battery died a long time ago. So I'm not going to really worry about that. I might see if I can access the battery just to make sure that it wouldn't leak. I don't know how these cell batteries do compared to AA's and stuff like that, which seem to leak pretty frequently. Now on the design, we have some paint application. So we have the gold here on his faceplate, the windows, and the grille, as well as places in the bumper. We have this sort of seafoam color that's placed on there. It's real interesting application. And then a little bit of silver around the clock screen, silver on the arms, silver on the stacks, silver on the front of the wheels, and then the silhouette of the G2 Transformers logo, which you can see here. So that is the paint application here. So let's see if we can transform them. So let's give this a shot. Okay, forward. Oh, it's almost like, okay, so he can stand up. Legs snap in, and it's almost like having a parrot. If I fold it down, an Optimus Prime that can ride on my wrists. You know, even though this is kind of a strange design and an odd toy, this is really cool. I mean, I think as a kid, this would have been the coolest thing I could have ever owned in watch form. I mean, just walking around TFCon or any of the conventions like this, I'm sure I would stand out like a ridiculous idiot, but I still think it's pretty cool. Anyway, let's see if we can finish this transformation. So let's fold this forward. The feet have little grooves in here. There's a little tab that holds it on. Seems like it's pretty secure. So I'm just going to slide him forward. See if I can do this while keeping him on here, because this is how, of course, we would have wanted to do it as kids. Okay, and so that leaves the watch wristband like so. On the inside it has the number 2, and has the number 2 printed here for some reason. And you could just fold that back and keep that on. Now let's look at Optimus. Let's look at what they've given us as far as articulation. Now it appears the head is molded into the chest piece, so I'm going to assume there is no head articulation. So for the arm articulation, we do have that. We have the chest piece that moves up. I do believe that you could possibly get the arm to go forward more. I feel like that it should click, but I don't want to risk breaking it, just because it's such an older figure and I don't know how strong the plastic really is. I mean, it doesn't feel terribly cheap, but it doesn't feel like super robust as far as the plastic goes. And then the knees, which they did click to hold its position up. There's a little notch here that can grab on, so he can bend his knees, and he has some sort of foot articulation. So he can kind of do the lean, lay back, do limbo. I mean, he's not super articulate, but is still a pretty neat Optimus Prime. So back to the blaster. I have it here on my wrist, and we can just pump it off. So with the blaster here, and then we have the peg hole, slides in pretty easily. It is a little bit loose, so I wouldn't display it that way like on my wrist. It's sort of just for the play factor. And if you do look at the picture, it looks like the arms go forward a little bit more, but they don't show him with the full Optimus Prime pose. So that's about all there is to it. Now, before we go any further, or call this quits, I want to take out G1 Optimus Prime and give a direct comparison to the liberties taken in the mold. So we've got the blaster here. You can see there are some similarities in the shape of the blaster, especially the tip and the back piece here. It does have a bit more of a clip, and it's a little bit stubbier, but you can see the reference there. You can see he's got the grill arms of Optimus Prime. Let's see if they hang down the same distance. So when you go down here, they go in the middle of the gas tank. His go a little bit further than the gas tank. I'd say that proportionally his legs are a little bit shorter than this Prime would be, but also he has a far longer torso. Especially, I'd say from this area down, seems a little bit more extended. And it could actually be that it's narrow as well, because the head is a little wide in comparison to the rest of it. But the lightness is there. We know that this is Optimus Prime, but it's different enough to where it sort of has that bootleg feel. But while it should be, from my understanding, an authentic product, it is just an interesting oddity of Transformers history. And I think it's an excellent addition to my collection, since I've always loved Optimus Prime. I've always wanted a transforming watch that depicted him in this sense. And I think this really is a way of capturing it, especially for the time. Now, if you don't know already, I write an article every year for Toys Are Evil about 10 top toys that I've collected this year. And it's not toys that have necessarily come out that year. It's that this is the year I've gotten them. And I'm pretty sure that this guy's going to be in that list just because he is such an interesting version of Optimus Prime. So anyway, if any of you know anything else about this Prime or have any questions about him, make sure you guys post in the comments. And like always, We'll see you all next time.